Welcome back to Coach Cameron's podcast. I had another question from a listener, from Brett Miller, and I'm grateful for these questions. This makes my podcast so much more easier when I can just answer questions from my 20 plus years of trying to reinvent the wheel and do it differently. And I've tried everything, so there's a lot that I can't answer, and if I can answer it, I'll let you know. But this question is about kind of how I started my 6v6 league, and if you wanted to kind of have an open 6v6 program, how do you get insurance and whatnot. So he basically asked if he wanted to start a 6v6 league for high schoolers and give them a platform to play, because where he's at in his neck of the woods, there's just not enough opportunity to keep teams around at certain ages. So he wanted to give them something like smaller platform like 6v6. So at Phoenix College, I do it. I do it mainly as a fundraiser for my foundation, and Brett Miller was asking how you set up foundation and whatnot. I didn't set it up. That was already set up by Phoenix College through, I believe, Maricopa County community colleges. Yeah, they set up their own nonprofit 501c3, but I had to drop $5,000 from a donor just to open ours up so we could use it. But you basically can use your club account as far as collecting money and whatnot. But as far as insurance goes, it's pretty easy to get insurance. And the insurance you're going to get is insurance that's going to be used, that's going to protect you as a coach. It's going to protect the facility you use. That's what you need. And then you just have everyone fill out a disclaimer, and you can get that from a State Farm or anywhere. If you Google it, there's all those rogue tournaments you see that are non-AYSA, state mandated tournaments approved by them that they'll insure it. They outsource it. And I've done tournaments. When I started the Georgian A President's Day tournament, AYSA didn't approve us because they were supporting Del Sol, and they didn't want to approve that tournament. We just went and got our own insurance, and it cost I think $500, but it provided $1 million liability on us, the staff running it, and then the facility. But everyone else had to be on their own insurance, and they just filled out a disclaimer. But that's something easy to do. But you can talk a State Farm or American Family agent, and they can kind of put you that way. But you can also just Google running soccer tournament need insurance, and they'll come up. There's a couple companies I've used in the past, but you can get insurance, and it's pretty cheap. But obviously you prefer if you can get it sanctioned, it'd be ideal and easier to deal with. But that's the way I've done things. But as far as the 6v6, I've done it in so many different ways, and I'll tell you a story about doing the 6v6. So when I do small-sided, I did a small-sided league within the rec program with the Arizona Hammers. And think of that, you could actually insure your kids within your club and create your own league within your club. So you can do that, and that's probably the cheapest way, get everyone registered with the most basic insurance that AYSA offers, and then just do your own league. And then I think you can get insurance or a player pass from AYSA, a rec player pass for $20, and then everyone's insured. That's probably the best way of doing it. And then you create your own league within that. That's the number one way of doing it versus purchasing outside. It's better to have each individual insured, because the insurance of AYSA is pretty good, the company they use, because they protect you driving there, driving home. Everyone's protected. It's a good secondary insurance, and then a good insurance coverage if you don't have insurance. So that's the best way. So forget what I said before. That is an option too, but you definitely can do it that way. As far as the league goes, so I ran a small-sided league, and I did it on points. So I went crazy. I did a point system where I did it through my rec, but then I got my competitive teams to do it and played older rec teams to compete with. And we're doing 7-on-7, 6v6 with keepers. And we did a point system where every time they connected a pass, the team got 1 point. And then anytime they got an assist on a one-touch finish, they got 8 points. And then every time they scored, they got 1 point. We didn't put an emphasis on scoring. We put an emphasis on connecting passes, finding that, assist. Every time they passed the ball, every time they went to the attacking half and then went beyond the halfway line to their defensive half, back to the attacking half, we gave them 10 points. So we were putting an emphasis on points and getting touches on the ball, because I'm a big believer on obviously getting kids to get real game touches. And the coolest thing about what happened in that league I created, it's the best league I've ever done. It took a lot of work, because I immediately after the games were played, and games were like 145 to 212. I mean, it was crazy from the numbers. It was hard to account for all of it. It took a lot of work. I would then, after the scores were done, I would then go immediately online and I would post all the scores, and then I'd post which player had the most points, who had the most connected passes, most goals, everything. I just had so much data, and that's what we're missing in soccer. We don't have stats. So I kind of created our own. And the coolest thing that happened in that league, I had a parent screaming at their kids because he wanted to win, because we had these flip point charts like volleyball, screaming at his child to kick the ball backwards to the keeper, because he wanted to go backwards to get forward to get the 10 points to catch up. And I'm like, I figured it out. I finally got parents to start saying the right thing. And like my last podcast, I'm always basing my thoughts or my development based on game situations where kids get real opportunities on the ball in game situations. There's just so much emotion tied to real games when there's competition and referees and all that they get nervous, and they get that adrenaline flush. And when they do eventually figure out how to do the right thing, it connects their brain. They feel safe to play, and they're comfortable, and that's the goal. It's experience, and you want the kids getting as many touches as possible, and it's a kind of a group effort. So if you do, Brett, if you do a 6v6 league or some small-sided league, it takes work, but do a point system. Create your own point system where every time they connect a pass, you get a point, and then make goals 1, and then make just change it up, and so they're touching the ball and they have a chance to win games differently versus just scoring goals. Have it where they're if someone megs someone and keeps the ball and then connects a pass, you get 10 points or something. Just change it up so the kids can have fun. And it's got me thinking, I'm going to start doing those things. I'm going to do that again. I love that league. It was so fun, but it does take a lot of help. So if you get parents to buy in and help you on that, it'd be awesome. So, Brett, I hope that answers some of your questions. Let me know if you have any more thoughts on that. But, as far as age restriction stuff, I like combining them. Especially if you're limited on numbers, you don't have ages that are appropriate, whatever. It's kind of like co-ed. Just mix them up, and then create different values for it. If you had a 15-year-old playing with a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old, give the value for the 10-year-old higher value than the 15-year-old in a point system game. So every time a 10-year-old can connect a pass, they get double points or something like that, because that's a big deal. Those are my thoughts. Thank you for the question, and you got me thinking. I'm going to probably look to do something like that again and showcase it. All right, thank you. Goodbye.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.